going to use this brake marker on the left and go drop down into second and trail brake into the corner. Once you get past this curve, you're going to lower the amount of accelerator you're using to a constant amount. You're going to use this orange barrier as a marker for when you can start going full throttle again. You're going to use this white line as your brake marker. You're going to drop to second gear and start trail braking into the corner. You're going to fully accelerate once you see this orange part of the barrier. You're going to use the slag projector on the left and drop down into second gear after braking. Once you see this orange part of the curb, you can start fully accelerating again. You're going to use the beginning of this curb as your braking point and drop down into second gear. You're going to wait until the end of this curb and lift off the throttle and turn into the corner. Use the start of this curb as your accelerator marker and go full throttle. You're going to use the slag projector here between the 150 and the 100 to brake down to first gear. Once you touch this curb, maintain a lower level of throttle. Once you're alongside this orange part of the barrier, you can then fully accelerate again. Use the end of the tire barrier as your marker to brake and drop down to second gear. Use this top structure as your braking marker and drop down to first gear for the final two corners. You can go over this curve without getting any penalties and help improve your lap time. At the end of the curve here, you can start turning into the corner at full throttle. That is the fastest time that I've been able to do with this car, but I'm sure it can be improved. Now, a useful driving technique that I've learned recently is trail braking. Now, trail braking is a method that is used to get around slower corners a lot faster. So what it ends up doing is creating a weight transfer to the front tires and increasing their traction, which in turn helps you rotate the car around the corner a bit more and reduce the understeer. Now, this is easier when the car has a brake bar to the front, where in Catalunya, where we're going to be racing now, we will have a further front brake bias. So the way you actually trail brake is, once you get into your braking zone, you will then step on the brake and start slowing the car down enough for the corner. And then once you hit your turn-in point, you'll reduce the amount of brake pressure you're putting on and reduce it to maybe 15-20% or even less than that, just to help maintain the balance of the car. Because what happens is you stand on the brakes and all the weight is transferred onto the front wheels. If you then lift off the brake completely when you're going to turn in, the car is now completely unsettled and you'll be at greater risk of actually sliding the car around the corner and just losing traction completely. So trail braking is mainly used in the very slow corners, not really the fast ones as much. And the reason for this is because on the fast corners you brake just enough around the corner so that you can then get on the power early and start getting around a lot quicker. But trail braking is best used in the slower corners such as chicanes and hairpins. So at Catalunya, for this race coming up now, there are only specific turns that you'll be using trail braking. This is specifically turns 1, 4, 5, 7, 10, 12, 13, and 14. These are generally the corners that where you enter into a chicane, or you're going into a really tight corner, or just a hairpin in general. So the race we're going to be doing is going to be 20 laps at Catalunya, which should take around about 30 to 35 minutes, depending on what your pace is. We'll have a starting fuel of around about 30 liters, which means that if you go full power from the start of the race, you can hit about a maximum of 4 laps on that fuel in your initial stint. If you use, you should use softs for this stint, of course. And there is a possibility for one-stop strategy, whereas in the previous races we've done, it's not really possible. So what you can do is you can do a one stop at the beginning, and you can switch over to a set of medium or hard tires. A full tank of fuel will also allow for about 14 to 15 laps of fuel. You can get the 15 laps if you fuel save for at least a full lap. Now, the other thing to take into account is if you are going to do a one-stop strategy, do not use the softs. I have tried it before, and you end up with about 85% wear on the front left tire and 80% wear on the rear left tire, as well as 50% wear on the front right and 50% on the rear right. So that definitely won't be beneficial because you're losing about 3 seconds per lap due to this. Plus you also end up picking up penalties by exceeding track limits because of it. Also, there is a two-stop strategy that should work best for this track, and this is pretty much where you complete your first stint of around about 4 laps. You switch to the soft tires again, you refuel fully, and you go for another 10 laps or so. And then when you come in for your second stop, you go onto a fresh set of soft tires again, because you'll have more grip, and then you only refuel to the amount of laps that you'll actually require. So if you go to lap 14, you should still have quite a bit of fuel remaining, and then you can just fill up with maybe 2 or 3 more laps of fuel just to get you to the end. You pretty much want to be left with about half a lap's worth of fuel at the end of the race. Another thing to note is that when you start to get major tire wear, it's best to start turning in a little bit earlier into the corner, and this can also be coupled with a earlier braking zone. So generally, as it goes on, it's about half a car's length per lap as the tires start to become weared even more and more. If you guys are planning on fuel saving, you guys can go for a full lean mixture. I wouldn't really recommend it. Maybe drop it to about a half-half, so a 3 in the Gran Turismo scale. The other thing you can do is, because of the amount of straights on the circuit, if you do find yourself behind another car that you know is going to pit earlier, you can sit in their slipstream with no intention to pass and end up short shifting through all your gears. This will save you approximately half a lap's worth of fuel if you do it right. And for those of you who play Gran Turismo Sport that often, you'll understand how difficult it is to have clean races in this game. So one of the best tools that I actually use is the radar. Now, a lot of people do know it's there, but they don't really know what the function is. People are more worried about how much fuel they're going to be using. But if you have a set strategy, then you shouldn't need to worry about how much fuel you have remaining, and you can use it for more important things like the radar. Now, you generally only use the radar once someone is within half a second of you, and you can tell that they've been gaining on you and they're going to try and attempt a move on you. Now, what's best for this is you go defensive before the braking zone. If you do it afterwards, you could risk a crash, and it's very dangerous driving. And if you don't get the move done in time, give them space, see exactly where they are on the track, and just make sure that you both get through the turn without any incidents.